Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Film Focus, episode 188, the review for Companion. Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen of the North, South, East and West, and welcome to another episode of Film Focus. I'm your host, the Hypersonic55, and I'm glad that you decided to join me once again for some film-related discussion. And today, we are going to be talking about the film Companion. Now, honestly, I wasn't really aware of this film's existence until around a month ago. I think I was listening to a podcast, I believe it was the Geek Buddies, and they were talking about the films coming in January that they were interested in checking out. And this was one of them. And I hadn't heard or seen anything about it. It wasn't until I saw Nosferatu a few weeks back where I saw a trailer for it and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was already intrigued by the idea of how it was described during the podcast, but then seeing it in film form, I was like, oh, okay, it seems like it's going to be a very unique film in the realm of humans interacting with AI and things going awry. Now, obviously, the idea of humans interacting with robots who are smart has been going on for many years, and you have various different forms of it in film and TV. And some of my favorite examples is what James Cameron did with the first two Terminator films, or Alex Garland, what he did with Ex Machina, and even Megan that came out a few years ago. That was some silly dumb fun, but it definitely had some unique and entertaining elements to it. I would suggest, ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in seeing this film, do try to skip the trailer and just go in cold, because I think your experience will be much better. I think the less that you know, the more entertaining the end result is, because I think that Companion is a really good film. Definitely my favorite film I've seen of 2025 so far. And to be fair, I haven't really seen too many films, I'm not going to lie, but this film left an impression on me. And this is the kind of film that if you're willing to go with the concept and dive into some of its darker tendencies, then you will get a lot out of it. So as per usual with these reviews, I'll talk about the story, characters and presentation, and then the overall conclusion. So without further ado, let's jump in. Alright, and now it's time to talk about the story, and it can be summed up as the following. This story follows Iris and Josh, a couple in a loving relationship who decide to hang out with some friends in a cabin in the woods for the weekend. However, once it is established that Iris is a robot and some other secrets are revealed, things start to go a little sideways. And that is a way for me to summarize the plot without going into the area of spoilers. Now, I thought this film was pretty fun and engaging. And as I stated beforehand, do your best to try and avoid any of the marketing for this film. I would say if the premise sounds like it's up your street, just go and watch it straight away. Because while I don't think that the trailer spoils too many of the core elements of this film, it does reveal a few aspects where certain things that happen later on in the film are present in the trailer, but it's just sort of out of context. So thinking about it, I think I may have enjoyed the film more if I hadn't seen the trailers. But that being said, I do think that the trailer does a good job of hiding the specifics of the plot and the character intentions. And while when you get to see the film in its grander context, you start to see certain similarities in terms of how stories with humans and AI have played out before. So there's certain codes and conventions that you'll be familiar with. I think this film puts its own unique spin on it so that some of these scenarios, while again, they may be familiar, there are so many cool and fun things that are done in this film where you're just like, oh, I have never seen that kind of thing done before. Or this is an interesting angle to look at this whole scenario. And I just found myself continuously intrigued just to see how things would play out, because the tension really ramps up. So many strange and fun and awkward things take place in this film, and you're just like, yo, what's gonna happen? I'm just very curious. And I like the themes that this film presents in terms of control, decision making, and the need for authentic relationships that are genuine, essentially, because I feel in this day and age, especially the post-COVID world, human beings are becoming a little bit more vulnerable and at least a little bit more vocal about their feelings and their wanting for authentic connections between each other, whether it be friends, family, or relationships. And I feel like this film does illustrate that to a certain degree, why, relationships are important, why there needs to be trust, and why when lies are at the forefront of things or they're hidden away and then come out later on, there's going to be hell to pay. And again, I'm trying to be very, very loose with my words. Actually, wrong choice of words. Actually, I'm trying to be vague. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm trying to be vague because the thing is, the joy of seeing this film is just seeing how things play out and seeing when some of those revelations get revealed, because there's certain things that you're probably aware are taking place, or certain characters that are doing or saying certain things, but just seeing how those things are revealed and how everything plays out, that's part of the fun of the adventure, essentially. And I liked how this film was at times funny, but also kind of sad. Again, very filled with tension and like certain elements of fear and certain elements of satisfaction as well. It's just a nice mixture. And the director and writer, Drew Hancock, did a great job of balancing this all out. Now, I don't know how much Zach Cregger's influence was on this film. I know he was, I think, a producer on this film as well. This is the Barbarian director, by the way. But in terms of Drew Hancock's, was it work on this? It was really well done. It felt like someone who had a very good handle on what they wanted to do with this film, how they wanted to present it. And by the time it was over, I'm like, yo, Drew Hancock, I want to see what other stuff you're working on, because I wasn't really aware of his credits until I looked him up on IMDb and saw that he was a writer on Blue Mountain State. And I was like, wow, that's a deep cut reference and a very interesting place to come from. Going from that sort of weird comedy show to this sci-fi thriller. And I watched a chunk of Blue Mountain State. I think I watched up until the early side of season 3. And the show was okay at best. I think it was mostly not very good. There was only the members of the cast that really kept me in there, especially Alan Richman, long before he became known as the Mountain Man, as Jack Reacher on Amazon. But overall, the story was pretty good. Alright, and now it's time to talk about the cast, and I think they all did a pretty good job. Everybody had their role to play, and they all did a pretty fab job, but clearly this film belongs to Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid as Iris and Josh. They were both great. Individually and together, I think Thatcher was stellar in this film. She had to do a lot playing this robot-related character, and there was so much about her physical performance that just was incredible. Just from her body movements to the way that she emoted in her face. It's a very tricky role when you have to play a robot-related character, especially one that has to imitate the elements of humanity, but also still be a little off. And Thatcher was incredible. This is the best thing I've seen her in so far. Now, I haven't seen too many of her previous credits, I'm not going to lie. I think the last thing I saw her in was The Boogeyman from 2023, I believe. But yeah, she was pretty good in that as well. And I totally forgot she was one of those weird Vespa biker people from the Book of Boba Fett. As soon as I started looking at her face, I'm like, oh, that's you? Damn, I see, okay. I won't blame her for that. That show was poorly written, but clearly she is much better when she's given the right material, and she was incredible. Just so good in this film. And the same can be said for Jack Quaid. Much like a number of people, I think a lot of us were introduced to him via The Boys when he was playing Huey, and he's been great in that show. And I also enjoyed his appearances in the last 2 Scream movies. I believe he had a full role in Scream 5, and I think it was some smaller footage within Scream 6. But he's definitely become plenty capable as an actor in recent times, and this is definitely my favorite role I've seen him in so far. This one required him to be a little bit more versatile in terms of his performance and how he portrayed himself over the course of the film. And again, he was just really good. And the same can be said for the rest of the cast, including Lucas Gage as Patrick, Megan Suri as Kat, Harvey Gullion, I think, as Eli, and then there's Rupert Friend as Sergey. He definitely played a unique character who he left an impression, let's put it that way. Alright, and now it's time to talk about the presentation. I think this film was pretty nice to look at. Visually, it had a nice style, there was some nice use of colour and shadow. It was framed pretty well, and while I wouldn't say there was anything like crazy remarkable about the cinematography of this film, I thought it was mostly really well shot and just looked very clean, had a nice look to it. And then there's the music, the film score, which is handled by, oh crumbs, I might butcher this name, apologies in advance, but I have that as like a Hrishikesh Hirway. That film score was, it was decent. Again, did its job of highlighting certain moments of the film where it needed to be done and being a little bit more subtle or being a little bit more intense when necessary. And yeah, I thought Hirway's score for the film was nice. Alright, so now it comes to the conclusion. Overall, I quite enjoyed Companion. Again, it wasn't the film that I expected it to be, especially from the way that the trailers portrayed it, but I think what it ended up being was way more entertaining than I expected. Again, the performances were really good. I thought that the story was unique and again had some interesting allusions to real life when it comes to relationships, when they are done under certain circumstances. And while I do feel like certain people may not enjoy this film because it didn't go as far as it could with the AI concept, or that certain audience members might be salty about the way in which the story transpires. Again, I can't go into too many details about that, but if you've seen the film, you might know who I'm referring to. But I would say, again, if you're willing to go with the concept and you like the idea of what this film is, then definitely give it a watch. I feel like this film could still be on my top 10 list by the end of the year, but we'll see. But now I turn it over to you. What did you think of the film? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Or are you somewhere in between? Let me know in the comment section below, or hit me up on Twitter where I'm at Hypersonic55 or at FilmFocus55. Check out the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and now YouTube as well. Be sure to subscribe anywhere where this podcast can be found and help me, rise up a little bit. And I guess that's it. Thank you for listening as always. And until the next time, this is the Hypersonic 55 signing out. Peace.